Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt running on the Steam Deck. But as usual, I have it hooked up to an external capture card to record everything here today. And, well, I will be looking at an external monitor because of it. So, not gonna be looking down at the Steam Deck's display. That doesn't affect the FPS though, but we will be stuck to 720p resolution instead of the 1280 by 800. But, you know, that's almost the same thing anyways. Let's go over here and see the details of the Steam Deck compatibility. And it seems like the title is verified and it should work completely fine in terms of everything. So let's see how verified it actually is, shall we? Because, you know, we've seen some titles that are verified and ran like crap. Yeah, Hogwarts Legacy. Okay, first we gotta make a choice between DirectX 12 and DirectX 11. DirectX 11 being recommended for older PCs. I think it will switch to Vulkan because we are running Linux here with the SteamOS on the Steam Deck. But let's try out DirectX 12 first and see how it runs. This is the next-gen update. Okay, here we are, guys, getting 850 frames per second, dropping down sometimes, but just by moving this. This is just the menu, of course, which is not intensive whatsoever, okay? You usually get like 3000 frames per second on a mid-range PC, you know? So we're playing at 720p resolution. As I told you, no 800p here with the capture card, unfortunately. But it's pretty much the same thing. The Dex display is actually 1280 by 800, so you'd lose 1 or 2 FPS by playing at the native resolution. And you can also play at 720p, which is the 16 by 9 resolution, so yeah. Going over the advanced graphics settings, I'm gonna leave everything as is. These are the default settings for the Steam Deck. I'm just gonna disable motion blur and that's it, okay? Hairworks are turned off, and most things are set to low, but some things are set to medium or high. So let's try this out. Okay, here we go. So the FPS are right around 30, dropping sometimes, 34 right there. Okay, the game overall doesn't really look bad on the Deck's display. I tried it first on the Steam Deck and it was very, very good looking actually using these settings. Of course, scaled up on a big monitor that I'm using here with the capture card, it doesn't look very good. But again, we gotta keep in mind that this is supposed to be played on a 7-inch monitor, so it will look decent on the Deck's display. Now, this area in Novigrad is actually more CPU intensive than GPU intensive, but we're still GPU maxed out, even dipping into the high 20s, so I guess I'm happy to see that because that means that lowering the settings will actually give us some more FPS back. And if it was a CPU bottleneck right here, playing on low instead of like the medium settings, I would say, wouldn't really do much, unfortunately. So, hello there, kind lady, how's it going? Roach, calm down, boy, we gotta appreciate the views. Anyway, a little bit of a cutscene right now. As you can see, FPS don't really change much. So, I guess they did optimize the settings here on the Steam Deck to achieve like 28 plus FPS all of the time. You're not really gonna notice much input lag either with these FPS on the Steam Deck because I think Reflex is enabled. Oh no, wait, Reflex is actually an NVIDIA feature and we don't have an NVIDIA GPU here, but for some reason other games at 30 FPS had tons of input lag and this one really doesn't. You know, like, that's pretty decent. Maybe it's because we have unlocked FPS. Whenever you cap the FPS using the built-in FPS cap on the Steam Deck, it actually introduces a ton of input lag. Going over here, seeing some fire effects, not a problem. Smoke effects as well. Seems to be pretty stable, you know. It only has a few drops here and there, but most of the time it's decent. And I can tell you that with the controller, you can't really feel much of a slowdown whenever it drops to like 29 or 28. I would still appreciate like 30 plus FPS all of the time, or a 30 locked FPS experience, but it's not bad like this at all. And yeah, it doesn't really stutter by all that much. You can see some frame time spikes variations there, but it's not terrible. For example, back when I tested my 5800X3D with the RTX 4080, it was way worse in terms of stuttering than the Steam Deck over here, and that's probably because the Steam Deck is not actually running the X12. It's making the translation to Vulkan with the XVK, or I don't know what it uses, honestly. Proton, yes, it's that. And it actually ends up smoothing out things in games that are usually very stuttery, like this one. Outside of the city, we're consistently above 30 frames per second, which is pretty damn good. I kind of want to see a bit more of a forest area, This is not a big forest, a dense forest. And I want to check that out because it's usually really intensive for the GPU to handle a lot of vegetation around you. And I think this is it right here. Yeah, okay. This is where it drops the most usually in my benchmark runs. So let's find out if it drops from 30 around here as well. And it doesn't seem to be doing that. 30 FPS flat right there. Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. That means that if you lock the FPS to 30, yeah, you can instantly feel a lot of input lag whenever you do that, dude. That is crazy, man. Oh, please, Valve, please fix the input lag issue with your built-in FPS cap. That's just terrible, honestly. You can get used to it. It's playable anyways, but it's just not good, especially if you play without an FPS lock first. Oh, it does have a built-in FPS cap, so this could possibly be the best way to play this game. Lock it to 30 for a more consistent experience, and it will only drop from 30. Oh boy, it's actually dropping here. I guess the game's FPS cap is not really that great. Maybe just run it unlocked, guys, because yeah, it is dropping into the high 20s right now, and if I disable the FPS cap over here, yeah, it should be far away from 28 FPS, which is what we were seeing looking in this direction, and it definitely is. It's getting 33, 5 more frames per second. That makes a difference, So yeah, just run it unlocked, I guess, in this one. Unless you're okay with the higher amounts of input lag and you can get used to it. Still drops slightly sometimes, as you can see, 29 right there. So let's try another setting. I'm gonna leave FSR2 on auto, and I'm gonna disable the dynamic resolution scaling. Wait a second. What does this do? Ooh, it improves our FPS by quite a bit. So this is way better. It's a bit more pixelated. I guess it was upscaling the image a little bit further previously with the dynamic resolution scale on. So it looked much closer to native resolution with that setting enabled, but without it, you can actually achieve 40-something frames per second around here. That's really good. Holy crap, just by disabling a little setting there that I thought didn't really do much anyways. Damn, that's really nice. Okay, and once again, on a small display of the Steam Deck, you shouldn't really be able to spot much pixelation at all, so that's great to see as well. I think FSR2 in this game is probably one of the best looking implementations. And finally, in Novigrad, we are getting 30s, 33, 34, 32, 31, 30. Oh, please don't drop, come on. Yeah, so far so good. I think with dynamic resolution scale, it actually did drop at this point, into like the high 20s, and now we're comfortably into the mid 30s. That's a pretty nice increase in performance here. So yeah, I think we've found the perfect settings. You just gotta disable one single setting and that's it. Everything else is pretty reasonable here. What about the low settings preset? Because the low settings still look really good in this game, okay? Sharpening set to low. It doesn't disable this or this. I'm manually gonna do this. I'm manually gonna set everything to the lowest, okay? Oh, it changed all of these to low. Some of these were set to like high and medium previously. So there is quite a bit of a difference here. And the FPS should be much better, okay? Ooh. Oh, come on. I was seeing like 60 right there for a second, and I was really happy with that. But as you can see, since we weren't CPU bound before, we can actually get a pretty big FPS boost by setting everything to the low setting, which is quite nice, guys. I really want to see the entrance of Novigrad again, because that was really CPU intensive with all of the NPCs around us. So we're definitely going to check that out, because I think we're going to be CPU bound there. I mean, we're already CPU bound because GPU usage is not at 98 or 99% all of the time anymore. It's fluctuating between the low 90s and high 90s very, very often, right? Okay, finally. Novigrad, few NPCs around us. Yeah, 39. GPU usage going down slightly again. Yeah, the CPU power usage, by the way, is a lot higher right now, I think. At 8.4 watts, 8.5 at times, 8.6 right there, almost 9. Yeah, so it's using a lot more wattage towards the CPU part of the APU than the GPU this time. Because, again, it's more CPU bound, and that's to be expected, it's low settings right now. So yeah, and that frame time is a bit more stuttery, but it's not really noticeable. Let's go back to the forest area. It's a little bit smoother here, getting mid-50s. No 60 FPS though, but I mean, I didn't really expect it in the next-gen update of The Witcher 3. It's really intensive compared to what it was before. 60 FPS right there, look at that. Amazing stuff. And now it's putting a little bit more wattage towards the GPU than the CPU because, again, this is more GPU intensive than CPU intensive. I think now we should try it with DirectX 11 API instead of the X12 to see if it makes a difference. All right, here we go. DirectX 11 is now applied. You can see it there under the on-screen display. And now we don't have FSR anymore. Huh, interesting. Could it actually be more intensive on the lowest settings here because we don't have FSR enabled? I don't know. We also do have FSR support built into the deck though, right here. You can change it to FSR, for example. So if it performs a little bit worse than before, and if it's possible to achieve like close to 60 FPS, we could enable FSR here on the deck and achieve that. Wait a sec. Oh, it looks way worse, first of all. Yeah, it definitely looks like the original version, maybe a little bit better than the original version. It's performing a little bit better as well, but I feel like it has some bigger frame time spikes at times. When it stutters, it's more noticeable, but it doesn't stutter as much as a mid-range PC once again. Ooh, no, those couple of stutters were pretty bad, actually. All right, and over here, once again, it's more CPU intensive, and it's getting slightly higher FPS than before on low, right? I am really interested in this, okay? Let's enable FSR. It didn't do anything. It is not doing anything at all. Okay, on 5 sharpness... No, it doesn't even look different, dude. It's not doing anything. What? No! Why doesn't this work here? Oh, come on. I was really hyped to see like 60 FPS most of the time. We'd probably not get that because, again, this is more CPU intensive than GPU intensive. So we'd just see lower GPU usage in this scenario. But still, oh, that's a bit of a shame, isn't it? I'm gonna try again in this scene. Let's see if we can spot the difference in graphics. I don't think so. Like, it's exactly the same. Why isn't this working? So I guess 60 FPS isn't really doable. Now we're actually using native 720p resolution though, so it's a little bit sharper than it was before using DirectX 12 and the FSR 2 set to auto. But I mean, in terms of stability, I think it stuttered less before, right? Or at least these stutters here are more severe for sure, so I think I would still choose the X12. It also looked a little bit better even on the lowest settings, because it has some better effects, I guess. Seriously, you can't jump this roach? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh boy. Okay, yeah, 40-something frames per second right here. What are you stuck on? Like, what the hell? Are you kidding me? I am gonna run, okay? I don't care about you, Roach. You are too clunky for my taste, okay? You are too damn clunky. So it's around the same with much higher wattage on the GPU. Look at that, touching like 9.7 watts at times. That's higher than in DirectX 12 mode. So I guess it gets less CPU intensive even in these areas, as well as Novigrad. We saw that, yeah, since we got like higher FPS, you know. It's less CPU intensive in the X11 than the X12. All right, what should we try out next? Like medium settings here? In the X11, that should work quite nicely, right? Yeah, everything's set to medium down here, still at 720p. And we're getting 40s. Yep, all right. I guess this is actually a lot better than the low settings. You know, since you can't really get 60 FPS all of the time, I would definitely choose medium settings over low. And at medium settings, it won't drop from 30 FPS at all. See, over here, it's only dropping into like the high 30s at times and lower 40s. So we still have a bit of headroom if we want to increase a couple of settings here and there. And it's pretty nice, you know, aside from the few stutters that you get here and there, which are completely normal again and also happen on PC. Now I'm curious to see it on high settings. Let's see if it works well or not. Oh my gosh. Oh boy, it's taking a while to load everything. Oh, and the high settings are way more intensive here. As you can see, it's getting 30s. It's probably gonna drop from 30 FPS here and there at 29 there. It's not terrible, though. It's a very similar experience to what we saw in the X12 with the default settings and FSR enabled as well. I mean, maybe FSR looked a little bit better, especially with the dynamic resolution scaling enabled at the same time, because this is too sharp. It's so sharp that it gets pixelated at times. Anyway, what matters is you should not go over high settings, because high settings already dips down into the 20s at times. It's still playable like this, alright? And if you told me back in 2015 when this game came out that we could have something like this running The Witcher 3 on high settings, I would think you were crazy, you know? And yet here we are, finally, in 2023, 8 years after the game released, we are able to run that. Yeah, that's been it for this one. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And let me know if you're picking up a Steam Deck or The Witcher 3 on your Steam Deck after watching this video. Before we go anywhere, let me just take a look at the FPS here. Ooh, dropping to 27. That's a bit too much, maybe. Yeah, okay, so it gets way more intensive on high settings inside of the forests. Look at this, way more GPU intensive. Damn. So no, high setting is not good. All right, see you in the next one. Bye-bye.